Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crooked Sticks for our second episode. Crooked Sticks, the community of conversation. And today we are talking about alignment. And I have two very special guests with us today. And this discussion really is going to be about, I would say, it's really just interfaith discussion. You know, what you believe about yourself or the world, or just what you think. This really is a platform to learn about each other. And what we can bring to the table. And I think that this idea, again, really started from just a bad rap, or, you know, a bad rep of the church, and just what Christianity is. And, you know, what my friends see in me is not necessarily what they see in the church. And, you know, I want this to be a place where people can talk about those things openly. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into it.
Before we get into it.
She's coming.
She's coming.
Oh, well, we can still roll.
A great intro,
we can still roll.
We can still roll.
All right,
we can still
all right,
roll.
okay.
Honestly,
Listen, let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. That's how we
Go
do
with
over
the
here.
flow.
Our fourth guest is coming.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're still here. We're still here. I want our guests to introduce themselves. Please. No, ladies first.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You know how we do it. We're in the South, baby.
Already. Hello, everybody. My name is Farrell Franks, and I go to High Point University. Yeah. And I'm excited to talk with y'all. I guess. Yeah.
Cool.
Why not? I guess. I am excited.
Yeah. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm Brandon. I was here for the last podcast. I'm happy to be here again. You know, Gabe always has great wisdom to spread. That's why he's one of my best friends. That's why I always try to pick his brain. Really excited to talk with you as well. Yeah, this should be a good discussion. I'm looking forward to it.
That's what's up. And I've just been notified that we have one more guest on the way. So she'll introduce herself when she gets here. But, you know, I thought we have some people here. Let's just go ahead and dig into it. I would talk about the topic now, but I also want her to be here for it to hear
so
that.
we can talk about something smaller.
We can talk about something small. Let's start with a nice little I'm gonna call this section unpopular opinions.
Oh.
All right.
I like that.
All right.
If you guys have one at the top of your head, you can go ahead and shoot.
Ooh, okay. Right off. People should not be having children. As many as
I was like, wow.
Go ahead and say
We don't like evolution. She's not here for any of that, bro.
No,
Nothing.
people should.
No reproduction.
Yes, let me rephrase that.
It's like, wow, that is a hot take.
Very unpopular opinion. No, so I think people just have kids and they're like, we're married, let's have a kid, or we're cohabitating, we're in a relationship, let's have a kid. And people should not do that. I think we've forgotten as a society, as a people, that we're raising another human being to be part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And being a psychologist, not a psychologist, but
you can say it. In 2 weeks, you're going to be out there in the field as a psychologist.
I would talk on that too. Talk about the fact that.
Yeah. I mean, like, think about our parents and everything that we've gone through, like how that's formed us and so many different things. And literally being a parent is like one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think people should think about having kids more seriously. And think, am I prepared for this? Am I willing to sacrifice my time and energy? So people should stop having kids as much as they, just take a break on having kids for a little bit. Think about it.
No,
it's a serious thing, you know?
And also, just so you know, guys, Farrell is studying psychology here at High Point University. So before y'all go off the books and say, hey, she don't know what she's talking about.
She knows what she's talking about.
That's my personal opinion.
Right. Personal
from the knowledge that I've gained.
But she is learning about her personal opinion.
I am.
You know
It's
an educated opinion.
So,
is there such a thing?
I think so.
Definitely.
Because think about it. We know some uneducated people. And they make some uneducated guesses. A hypothesis is an educated guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I definitely agree. I think there's a certain time, not everybody's ready when they think they're ready.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to kind of judge too, bringing another person into this world. And, it's a lot of kind of, self-thinking, self-realization. Like, am I ready to take this on?
Yeah.
This is a whole new step. This is a whole new stage. Are we ready?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because and I think we're living also in a world today where people are like, oh, like, let's praise like the single home families. And I mean, like power to them. You know what I'm saying? And now listen, I'm not a parent, so I'm not saying that like no power to them. Cause that struggle is real, I'm sure, but I think about it like this. There's probably a lot of strain and perseverance, much more that is required than if it were two of you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
absolutely.
Why go through that much more in life when you already have your fair share of hardships? Like you're going to go through a good amount. Trust me. So that being said, why would you add more? Like, you know what? I got some hardships, but let me get the buffet line. Let me get a little bit more. Like you don't need all that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of extra.
And we live in a world that is just so fast. Everything that happens around us is so fast, especially with technology.
Definitely.
And even being in college, I mean, even talking about hookup culture.
Oh my goodness.
It's at like an all-time high.
Instant gratification.
Yeah. Instant gratification. Because that's what we're used to. We're used to getting everything quick and we want it our way and we want it our way now. Yeah. People aren't patient anymore.
Definitely
People
not.
can't look at their phone for, more than 3 minutes without changing apps, swiping next.
Yeah. Because they don't have a crazy world. And you think about it too. Sophie's here.
Sophie.
Hi.
Sophie, we're live.
How are you? Ladies and gentlemen, Sophie is joining us.
No pressure.
How was your dinner?
It was phenomenal.
Oh, awesome. Wonderful.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
To the microphone. Go ahead and put pull it down a little bit more, actually. Yeah. A little more. And I'll pull it closer to you.
There we just go. A little technical difficulties.
There we go. We're getting it. We're getting it, guys. What number is that? Look at the inside of it and tell me what number it is.
2.
2?
Yeah.
Boom. Go ahead and speak.
Hello?
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right. So, please introduce yourself.
I'm Sophia Carter. I'm from Cherryville, North Carolina.
I can hear it.
Oops. I was like rushing, so it's definitely going to come through. I'm a psychology major and I'm a current senior.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
You have 2 psychology majors.
Yeah, we're about to get roasted.
That's crazy.
They're about to cook us with some thoughts.
Man.
No, I'm
give
here
us whole new things we ain't never think about.
No, that's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's going to be a good podcast, y'all.
Expand your brain.
Yeah.
So, and as I said before, this is about a community of conversation. We're just, talking openly, unapologetically about what we believe, but also coming from a heart posture of learning and curiosity. So that's really what it's about.
Place to be.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to read you guys something.
All right.
I've been reading a book called The Language of God by Francis S. Collins. And this guy, he went to UVA. He grew up homeschooled with his mother. And I don't know how many kids it was in the house. There was more than one, I can tell you that much. But anyway, his parents raised him going to church, and they raised him going to church to learn the values, but not necessarily to be part of the faith, right? And when I say that, for those of you listening, that just means that think about it from a perspective of going to church. So you send your kid to church so they can become a good kid, right? So they just don't go off the rails and do something dumb. Which, I mean, if you think about it and you're a parent and you're trying to set your kid up for success, I completely understand that, right? Anyway, he grew up his whole life until about college, towards the end of his college days, being an atheist, only because he was curious about God, and then things shot it down. He's like, you know what, that's not for me. So, and honestly, he was very upfront about that. And then he had this epiphany. By the way, this guy was really smart. He went to school at UVA and he was studying chemistry, right? He was studying chemistry, and then he switched in the middle of a dissertation to go to biology, which is insane. Now, so basically what he's doing is he's writing this book. And he's explaining how science and God are more so related than people believe, right? They're more related. And by that, he had this one sentence in this book that I just need to read literally word for word because it's beautiful. He said, if God exists, then he must be outside the natural world, and therefore the tools of science are not the right ones to learn about him. And basically what he's getting at is that science is a means of explaining a world that was created by God, but not a way to understand God, right? Like in the same way, like if you build a house, like the architect creates the house, right? He builds the house, but you won't find the architect inside the stairs or the walls or in a painting or in the TV. Like there are elements that show that there was someone there who had these thoughts and ideas because things they're symmetric, like there's thought behind it. You can't build a house perfectly on accident, right? And in that same way, he takes the same approach to revealing that science and God are more related. And I think this is also very relevant just today in a world where people say like, no, science and God are different. And I mean, I get that thinking because for me, when I was growing up, I thought the same thing, and just the more that I grew up, the more I thought about why can't those things mix? And I think that's really what this book is getting at, right? And so again, going back to the whole point of this podcast is really to just ask some tough questions. We're going to ask questions that people are either afraid to ask or they don't think they can ask. Yeah.
Cool.
That's it.
Awesome.
That's good.
Good excerpt. Good excerpt.
Do you guys have anything you guys want to talk about based off of what I just read there? Because I have topics to go off of, but if you guys have anything you want to say, now is your chance.
Y'all can go right ahead. Okay, I'll go.
My man.
So you were talking about how, this is more just a question about the book, more or less. But you were saying that you believe that science and religion should kind of be, thought about as more connected than separated. How do you think that it should be? Like, what specifically do you think about science relates to religion more than people think?
I think, now I only read so much of this book, right? And I think that what this book is getting at is science. Science is a way to measure things created. And science is a way to measure the natural world, right? And that is what Francis S. Collins, that's what he's talking about, right? He's talking about the natural world and science being a means of measuring something, right? And measuring all things that are natural. Now, one thing that he would get on later in this book, and even in that quote, is he's saying that if God exists, it would have to be outside that world, right? Now, I looked up the definition of natural, and basically it's anything that is occurring that is not man-made, right? So anything that was occurring before our existence, right? So science can explain, prehistoric times because like those were things that were happening naturally, right? It can explain the expanse of the universe because those are things that happened. I mean, we think it was natural because it just happened. And that's the only way that we can actually fathom that. What he's getting at is that God would have to exist outside of his own creation in order for any of that to be fathomable. Because at that point, everything would not make sense anymore. Does that make sense? And I mean, like, there's also, oh my goodness, there's another part in the book. And it was like early on. Basically, the story is there's this nun and she's at this river and there's a scorpion in the river and the scorpion is getting caught in the river and it's like getting stuck. So she goes in and she like reaches into the water and grabs the nun. Or words. She grabs the scorpion, not the nun. So she goes in and tries to grab the scorpion. The scorpion stings her. I mean, obviously, the scorpion. But she goes in and she tries to get it and it stings her. She takes her hand back and then she tries to go in again and she keeps getting stung. And like her face starts having like a reaction. Her hand's getting swollen. This guy walks by and he's like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you grabbing it? And then he basically says, like, what's wrong with you, fool?
Yikes.
Do you want to kill yourself to say that ugly thing? And then looking into the stranger's eyes, she answered, because it is the nature of the scorpion to sting. Why should I deny my own nature to save it?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's so good.
We're going to start with that. We're going to start with that.
I like bumped Farrell because we've both heard that. We've both heard that in chapel.
Mm-hmm.
Preston Davis has talked about that story a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Farrell and I met in chemistry class.
Oh, yeah.
Freshman
Ancient
year.
ago. Forgot about that.
And
That's funny.
so just, I think nature, and Farrell can obviously talk more about this. She appreciates that so much, and I adore that about her. But just the awesomeness that is science, and that's why I still love science and I love health, even though I'm a psychology major, just because it is just one way to study God. It is like the Bible is almost like a spiritual domain of how to appreciate God and just how he's walked through the world before we ever existed, and how he loved us before we ever existed. And I love that perspective of, having my soul touched and restored and healed through just the inner workings of my being, but also appreciating God's creation that is so unique and so perfect.
Right.
And I have eyes to see that he designed our own bodies, and everything that I get to perceive, he created that. And I'm like, wow, it is such a gift that I get to walk to class, that I actually get to study, and my mind can handle this cognitive process of studying, or these eyes and the light that goes into them, where I can see just like his beautiful creation.
Yeah, that's so good. Kind of going off of that, I think even if you're not a scientist, you can see God's handiwork in his creation. If you think about birds and like just animals in general, how they communicate, like their intelligence and how they love their mates and how they communicate as a species. You can think about grass and how it photosynthesizes, and I butchered that word, but just like the sun, and everything is so detailed and intricate. How could it not be designed by our maker and someone who was intentional and creative in all that he did and all that he does? And going to your point about the book, I think the scorpion story is so the story of Jesus, and how he continues to reach out his hand and say, hey, like, it is my nature to love you and to restore you, like you were saying, Sophie. And we keep singing him, and we keep saying like, oh, like, Lord, I don't want you. I don't want these things that you have for me. But he continues to be faithful in our faithlessness and continue to love us despite that. So I think that's a great story and a great picture. And yeah, creation is all around us, and it's just evident to see God's work in it.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah,
That's good.
that's good.
Off to a solid start. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was dropping off a friend today at the airport, and after, I'm in prayer, and I think also that's just one thing that I've begun to pay more attention to is just like my idea of prayer and how I hear from God, because for everyone it's different. And I was thinking, I got in the shower, I was like, what am I gonna talk about tonight? And then I got, I picked her up and I took her to the airport. And I was like, I asked her, I was like, what am I going to talk about tonight? And then I drop her off and I'm driving back. And then I'm just like thinking about life. I do. And I'm thinking about,
It's a good practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to say that God revealed to me this idea of alignment. And I'm not talking in the sense of, like spiritual. Well, you know what? Let me say it this way. He brought to me this idea of alignment. And where that was coming from is I was looking at every single relationship that I've ever been in and why it like stopped working, And I'm just talking to myself and I'm just like, it's very interesting. I meet people and I grow close to them and I'm just like, I can see myself dating them. But now I'm at the point to where I'm like, okay, if I do date them, this is what I see happening. I see our paths diverge. And by that, I mean where we are right now. Right. And the reason why I say that is because I approach dating and just, friendships, specifically dating and even marriage from the perspective of, if I'm going to be with somebody, I'm going to be with them from the perspective that they might not ever change or ever become into this thing, like where they are right now was as good as it's going to get. And I'm okay with that. Now, if you think about that, depending on who you meet, that's kind of tough, like that's, that could be like a good thing or a bad thing. But going on with this alignment idea, I was looking at like all of, past partners. So I'm Christian, I'm clearly, and my heart has been always like pointing towards God. And I'm not saying that in a sense of like, I like haven't sinned before or I'm perfect, but I'm saying that if there was ever in the back of my mind, the end goal was always end up here, or to always be walking in this direction. And by this direction, I mean towards God. Right. And so that's where my heart is aligned. And that's where I'm walking towards. Right now in life, there are different paths and, we meet people and sometimes our paths come together and sometimes it becomes the same path. Right. But one thing that I have come to learn is that if we're not walking towards the same thing, our path is going to split apart at some point, and I think it's easier to make lasting relationships when your heart is aligned on the same things. And I'm not saying it in a sense of faith. I'm just saying it in a sense of values. And my values are where my faith is. And so that's why for me, my heart being aligned in Christ and through Christ that's so like impactful and important for me because my partner, like everything that I do for her is out of love and it's coming from the same place. We're playing by the same rules, right? For her, that might not be the case. And you have to think about like, okay, well, what is her measure of good? What is her measure of love? How does she see it? What does she believe is enough? And I just thought about that in the car and I literally like took out my phone and like started like recording like a voice recording of that idea of alignment. So I could like remember to like say this tonight because I don't know. I just think that's huge. If anyone wants to speak on that, speak now.
Yeah. I mean, people do things for different reasons and I believe it is probably really, really hard to find, that perfect match, faith or not faith, it's really hard to find somebody that clicks, somebody that you can wake up in the morning and be happy that you're with them every single day. You're not going to be tempted by somebody else. That seems really, really difficult. Yeah. Just for anybody, any Christian, I mean, it doesn't matter. So I'm not saying I have anything figured out. I don't. My past relationships haven't been that great either. It's usually a matter of interest with me. It's like if I show interest in something too much and they don't give that same energy back, then it's really discouraging to me. Sometimes it feels like I'm putting all my eggs into one basket and it's never working out. So that doesn't really have much to do with alignment. But I do kind of.
I think it does.
It kind of touches in my values.
Yeah, exactly. So, you want someone who's putting forth the same effort as you do, and if there's someone who believes in the idea of just doing enough just to get by, which was also one of my past relationships, then I mean, like that's going to affect how they see you and how they treat you. They're only going to be doing the bare minimum or right below that. Enough to make you go to sleep at night, but not enough to make you want to wake up and see them the next day.
So finding those people that you get along with as friends, I mean, those are the people that you build relationships with, because then you have, kind of an established front with them. You kind of know what they're about. You know what their values are more, and you're friends with them because your values are somewhat similar and you can get along with them enough. So personally, the best way to find alignment, I feel, is just look at your friends, look at the values of your friends, look at what you like about them, look at what draws you to them. and maybe you'll find somebody that is similar to them. I look at my mother a lot when I think about girls, because my mother is, there's always the saying that
awesome,
you're going to either marry, that girls are going to marry their fathers and men are going to marry their mothers. I do believe that, honestly. My mother, she's a huge pain in the butt, but I love her. I love her. And, I would be so happy if I got a woman that was like my mother every single day. I think about it. I dream about it. That would just be the dream, because she's very caring and she knows how to take care of me. She knows how to respect my values, and she is everything that I look for in a woman. She set the standard extremely high. So now I'm picky, and
that's so awesome. I mean,
it stinks, but that's
gonna be happy in the end.
Yeah, gonna be happy in the end. And at least I kind of have an idea for what I want, but that's how I kind of figured it out, is I looked around me and I was like, wow, I really like this about somebody. I want to, get to know them more, or I want somebody that is similar to that. But yeah, that's my 2 cents about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
I really like what you said about, admiring your mom like that and just valuing her values. And then it made me think about how much time that took for that relationship to develop. Because even though we're like, wow, I would love that now, and then there's some people who are like, you just want to skip this stage. Like there's like a TikTok or whatever. And I'm like, no, that stage is like so important. The get to know you stage, and just have that awkward small talk stage. And you're like,
has to be there.
I don't, I don't know anything about you, but I really like to get to know you more. That's like super valuable, and like how open you guys both are to that, and anybody. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, instant gratification as well. How, like Sophie, you're saying, we want to rush all these moments and we want to get to the part that's really good and like really intense and like intimate. But all those little seasons and periods of life and moments are making up this relationship that you have. And just like in a relationship, it's not going to be gratifying always. Like there's going to be heartache and frustration. And, this is another human being that you're in a relationship with, and they're going to tick you off and you are going to have bad days. And, I think that's what love is about, is true love, is actually loving this person fully for who they are, and, fully and completely, and recognizing, their beauty and, wholeness and humanity, and seeing Jesus in them, despite all of their flaws, I think. So I think we have to move instant gratification aside when we jump into relationships, for sure.
Rome wasn't built in one day.
Yes. Very, very true.
I have experienced, and Farrell, she's been on this journey with me. At the beginning of this semester, like I was in this relationship with someone who did not have the same values as me. We were very, very different. And I just spoke to Farrell because she's like, I just trust her, like automatically trust her with like everything. And she was like, Sophie. I was like, I know. And so, I just realized how much like he wasn't honoring me, like my wishes, my values, my dreams, God. He did not know God. And so that was very hard, and I compromised that. And my family members are like, why did you do that? And I don't have an answer. Just, I was in a different mindset. And it took one person that fully, when I saw them and saw how they interacted with me, I saw God. And I saw how impactful He is, how impactful God is onto others. Because with the person that I'm currently with, when I was interacting with them and to see their amount of patience for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is overwhelming because like I've never been treated like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, if I can experience this, like here, imagine God's patience for humanity. You know, I'm like, this, you know, the person I'm with has God on their heart, and they push me to see God differently every single day. They say, oh my gosh, like it's such a beautiful day. I want to sit outside and just enjoy God's creation. I'm like, I'm sitting outside enjoying God's creation. It's so I think the values and just, you know, when you're aligned in the values of Christ and the Bible, and just appreciating the same things, that is the most beautiful union that we get to experience because God values community so much. And that divine union we get to have with another person is such a gift.
Yeah. I feel that. I do. And I mean, I can speak, at least from my past relationships, because that common denominator has always been their hearts being aligned with something else. And it wasn't the fact that was a problem. It's just sometimes it affected the way that they saw the world, which was more negative than the way I saw it.
Ooh, yeah.
And I'm am I a positive person?
You're a positive person.
Thank you.
Generally speaking. Yeah.
Generally speaking. And I'm like, ooh, my camera stopped. I'm a positive person. And that being said,
Do you want me to talk about how positive you are while you figure this out?
Oh,
Positive
Gabe is just so freaking positive, man. He is just so happy all the time. No, you are pretty optimistic about a lot of things. And I feel like that's also another reason why, you make yourself so vulnerable too, is because you open your heart to so many people. I'm the same exact way. I open my heart to people and I start caring about them so much that, they start doing a couple of good things for me, I'll give them expectations. And that is the worst thing you could ever do with another human being.
Yeah.
Is expect something of them that,
true.
that you think is the right thing to do. Because you're speaking from your perspective. It's their life. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do.
And that sets up like conditional love.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
God gives us unconditional love. Like, just for us existing, accepting him as our savior.
But also what you were saying, I don't know why I thought I even forgot what I was talking about. I'm a positive. I'm a positive person. because the thing is that I felt that the perspective on life sometimes have been either very limiting or like, I don't believe there's a limit of how far I can go. You know what I'm saying? So for me to be with someone who believes that they can only go so far it's like, well, if I'm flying this high, I'm not going to come down and throw you up and then go back and fly because you're going to fall back down. Like you have to be able to carry, your own weight, flap your own wings. You know what I'm saying? Back to the bird analogy.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like it's been very hard to do that because I can't give someone my perspective, but I know that when I meet someone who has a similar perspective, I feel like we can definitely connect more on things. And I think that's really what you said, just about like that being open. I think earlier in the year, I went through a stage of where it was very hard for me to make genuine connections for a couple of reasons. One, I was just very, exhausted or just out of touch with this social part of who I am. And I've just become more introverted than I like to say. Like I wouldn't think of myself as an introverted person, but I've become more so that way. I've become more so relying on what's in me rather than what's near me to grow. And it's hard, but I also wouldn't change it. Like I wouldn't change it. But outside of that, it's like, it's very hard for me to find these people or these spaces where I have that desire, or even just to be by myself and have that desire to go and like, I want to meet somebody, or I want to go meet these people, or I want to go connect with these people over here. You know, it doesn't have to be like a romantic thing, but sometimes I will just walk around and I'll be spent and I will just not have that desire to want to form a new bond, a genuine bond with someone. And I felt like it's been limiting my ability to be the person that everyone knows me to be, but also just the person that I know that I can be, you know, like I know that I can be this person that goes out and talks to people, and connects with them and like hears their stories and, you know, shares my stories with them. But it's just like, and whenever I get to that point, I get to that little like small talk conversation and then I hit a wall. And it's like, for some reason, like that before was like a genuine desire. And like now I can't tell what it is, but I hit that wall and it immediately stops. Very interesting thing.
Psychology corner, y'all got anything to say?
Yeah, please.
I think talking with people is hard. I think, first off, like what you were saying, being tired. I feel like in college, we're so busy. We are just constantly moving and constantly doing things. And I think it's really important to think about what you align yourself with. Like, do I want to spend my time with school? Like, I want to be in clubs. I want to do this. Or do I want to be with friends? Do I want to have a job? I think it's important for you to figure out, hey, like, what actually do I align myself with first off? And then let me pursue those things. So for me, for example, I can only do like classes and then like one other thing that I can commit to fully, because I want to be present in relationships and my friendships and things that I do. But me being an introvert as well, it is hard for me to have the energy to connect with people. And I'm a person who likes to jump into deep conversations right away. And that's not
it's not easy.
a normal track of conversation. And it's hard to do that. And I think that's something that's great about people. I love that we can be awkward. And there's like you were saying, awkwardness in how we are. And I think that is to be embraced. And I think also like recognizing our tiredness or whatever it may be, our inabilities to do things, and thinking, okay, why is that? Like, why do I feel this way? Or why am I feeling tired? Or why do I not want to talk to this person? And actually reflecting on those things. I think reflecting is so important and we don't do it enough.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
That's good.
I agree with everything that you just said, Farrell. Reflection is one of the most important things. And just that amount of self-awareness, because for you to like check in with yourself saying, what am I going to get from this? Or just maybe you don't even get anything. Just say, wow, I interacted with that person and I don't know the meaning of this, but just, I love talking to people, but there's definitely a time where I'm like, I am not emotionally available anymore.
Yeah.
I have to create that boundary, and boundaries are the hardest thing for me to establish and to honor.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, I want to do it. And then 5 minutes later, like, I didn't do it. I broke it already. And just not wanting to disappoint people. And I kind of heard it in your voice, like just always just being all that you can be for somebody all the time, which is quite impossible, even though we're like
draining.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
exhausting,
So draining. But just, sitting with someone and not saying anything at all. That's also like, that's refreshing, even though I'm not really interacting with them. I'm like, good little presents.
Good little presents. I like that.
Put it on a t-shirt.
You gotta tell me twice.
So yeah.
That's good.
I feel like we also give ourselves, going back to the word of the day for me, expectations. Some people are different than others. Again, it's okay if you don't want to do things, if you don't want to go out on a Friday night at college.
Absolutely.
Like, you're not missing out. Like, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. That's how you're fulfilling your time. And that's how you're going to be your happiest too. I feel, if just by listening to what you actually want to do instead of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Honoring you.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that. Because I feel like, especially in, this fast paced world, we don't have time to reflect. We don't have time to make our own decisions sometimes. And that's the name of the game. It's our life. It's my life. It's your life. We're not together. I mean, we can be together, like, in, a bond, a friendship, a relationship, but ultimately it is individual and individual. And people forget that sometimes. And I think it's important to understand that, it is important to take care of the ones around you, but it is also way more important to take care of you first.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was an interesting point that you made before about like having an interaction and not really going how you wanted it to go, or just like what is this that had just happened? Like, I didn't get anything out of it. And my brain just left what I was going to say. And then going to your point about expectations. I think that like we have these expectations for literally everything. And sometimes when we don't think that we're getting something from an interaction or a situation, we actually are. And I think it takes a while for us to realize that, like, oh, in that moment, this is what I was feeling, or in that moment, this person reacted this way, and let me think about that, or this is how I reacted. So I think we have these expectations of how things are supposed to be, and then we forget or miss, or it goes over our heads for how things actually are in the moment. And we don't actually sit and process, and we're not with people always. We're having these expectations. We're having these thoughts about, oh my gosh, like, what should I say next? Or how should I respond? Or, yeah. And we're not actually like being with people.
You have an inside story.
Inside joke. Okay. All right.
Oh man. Yeah.
I feel like the expectations are built by comparison.
Definitely.
We always have one friend that's just always seems bubbly, always seems, lively and doing the right things. You're like, oh, I want to be like them. And you always like, I'm not talking about you. Okay, good. I'm playing.
Look at me like that.
No. And, when we feel like we underachieve in these small conversations, then we just beat ourselves up about it. And like you said, like, they could be thinking something completely else, like different. Be like, oh my God, like they spoke really well. And you could be thinking off to the side, like, wow, I stuttered like 5 times. What is going on with me?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of your mental health can be like decided on, how you really think, and making sure that you keep like a clear mind and understand that you are not like your best friend, like entirely. Where you're not built the exact same.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to for you to like label, the same expectations that they do, that with what you do. I mean, Abe, you study a million different things. You do, camera production type stuff, art stuff. That's crazy. You make clothes. I'm in sports. That's nothing alike.
Yeah.
That's nothing alike. So if I, no. I'm saying like, if you expected me to set up a camera in this podcast room and I wasn't able to do it, and I started beating myself up about it, like that's unfair to me. Yeah. Like that's not where my skills lie.
Right.
And if I asked you to give me a SWOT report about the Atlanta Braves, you wouldn't know what the heck I'm talking about.
They play at that stadium over there, and it's called the Battery.
So
that's all I got.
It can be that simple sometimes, and people try to just complicate everything nowadays. And it's a shame, because a lot of people aren't able to kind of pick apart that the simplicities in life and the things that actually do need to be kind of like complicated. Like, for example, having children.
Yeah.
It's complicated. It's
is.
not as simple as it looks on the outside all the time.
Take some patience, bro.
Oh,
Yeah.
mercy.